everyone, welcome back to my channel Tutelage, a guide to learner. Here, this is Sriparna. Hope all of you are doing well. So, in my last session, we have already discussed the basics of research, okay, which includes meaning, objectives, characteristics, types, etc. So, this chapter basically will help candidates in preparation of the entire UGC Net paper 1, and it will be equally important for their academic journey which will start with MPhil or PhD enrollment. So undoubtedly research aptitude is important as it is part of the syllabus of NET exam, and usually there are 5 to 6 questions from this topic. It should be kept in mind that it is not just important from the exam perspective but also the knowledge or experience of research will be helpful in teaching as well, and it will help teachers in staying up to date with the latest developments in their subject. So that's why it is one of the most important chapter. So if you have missed my previous session, so please go and check it once. The previous session link is already shared in my first comment and my description box. Okay, so today we are going to explain some new concepts under the same chapter, so that's why it is called research aptitude part 2. So learner, let's move on to the next slide. So here we can see some subtopic which we will discuss today. So first topic, that is a difference between fundamental research and applied research. Second one is characteristics of good research. Third one is one of the most important concept of this chapter, that is positivism and post-positivism approach. And last one, that is methods of research. So now going to the next slide or main slide, and let's start the session. So here we can see the first slide of this chapter, that is research aptitude. The basically two words, research and aptitude, both words are so now going to the next slide. So here we can see some subtopic which we will discuss today. So first one is difference between fundamental research and applied research. Second one is characteristics of good research. Third one is one of the most important topic, that is positivism and post-positivism approach, and last one is methods of research. So learner, let's begin the session and move on the main slide. So here we can see the first slide of this session. So research aptitude. So basically research aptitude is summation of the two words. First one is research and second one is aptitude. So at first we have to know what do you mean by research. So research is made of two terms. First one is re and second one is search. So re means again, okay, that means a new or over again, and search means to examine closely and carefully. So research is the careful, patient and systematic study in some fields of knowledge. In simple words, research can be defined as the in-depth study of something in search of some new information. And aptitude means ability or skill to do something. So that means research aptitude is the ability or skill to systematically, carefully and closely examine a situation, procedure or an activity for the formulation of the generalization and theories. So I think what is research aptitude and what is the basic meaning behind the research aptitude is clear to everyone. So now move on to the next slide. So here we can see types of research. So we can see there are two types of research, fundamental research and the applied research. So now going to the next slide. So fundamental research basically is used for generalizing and makes addition to the existing knowledge. That means new knowledge addition to the new knowledge addition to the existing one. So this is basically a fundamental research, and fundamental research is conducted for formulating the theories, formulating the new theories, and it has a greater scope of application. Okay, and on the other hand, applied research is conducted to find solution for any kind of problem or to analyze any particular issue. So, fundamental research is conducted for formulating theories, so that's why it has greater scope of application than applied research, because applied research is conducted to find solution for any particular problem and it is used for any specific social or business issue, so that's why it has smaller scope of application. So I think clear what is meant by fundamental research and applied research. So now move on to the next slide. So here we can see the new concept, that is characteristics of good research. Okay. So there are lots of characteristics. So the first one, that is one of the most important thing, that is accuracy and realistic. Obviously, research should be accurate and realistic. So accuracy means research should be free from all errors. Okay. It depends on whether the research tools have been selected carefully or not. Attention should be paid at every step to avoid error. So non-accurate research will yield only spurious result. Okay. So accuracy means free from error. Okay. So now going to the second characteristics, that is the realistic. So good research should be realistic. It should deal with some real problems of the world. So the results should be realistic always. So research with spurious result will be of no use. So good research should be realistic always. So now going to the third one, that is empirical. Okay. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, the term empirical means based on, concerned with, or variable by observation or experiences rather than theory or pure logic. So research should be empirical. In other words, it should be based on observations, direct or real life experiences. Scientific methods should be used while conducting research. So that's why good research should always be empirical. So now going to the fourth characteristics, that is the critical. So there should be critical analysis of the methods and procedures used so that research should be free from any errors, we have already told. So it should be able to resist critical scrutiny. Okay. So now going to the next one, that is logical. Okay. So good research is always logical. In other words, it is governed by the rules of logical reasoning. So this makes research more meaningful and decision making activity. So logical research have power, more meaningful and decision making power. Logical research gives more meaningful and decision making power to the research. Okay. So induction and deduction feature part of logical reasoning, and which are also play an important role in the research. So we will explain it later. So now going to the next, that is generalizability. Okay. So for every research, there is a population on which research can be conducted. For example, consider that a research is conducted on the use of online educational channels among college students. So for this population will be college students, but it will not be feasible for researchers to collect data from each and every college student. So they can choose a sample which will be representative of the population. So generalizability implies the interpretation which have been made using the sample should be applicable to the population as well. Okay. So now going to the next one, that is systematic. So research should be systematic. This means that every research should follow a certain set of procedures. The researcher has to choose the procedures on the basis of their suitability to research. So this should be executed step by step and it should be systematic. We have already told research is the systematic study. Systematic in-depth study of something in search of some new information. So every research should be systematic. So systematic is one of the most important characteristics of good research. So now going to the next one, that is the creditability. Okay. So research should be credible. It deals with the trustworthiness of research. It is not about the quantity but quality of research. Conclusions should be based on accurate data, because we have already told accuracy of the is one of the most important characteristics of research. Okay, so special care should be taken while using secondary data as it might have been manipulated. So research should be credible. So now going to the next point, that is the objectivity. Okay. So objectivity implies impartiality or absence of bias. Again, same thing, absence of bias, that means free from error. So research should be free from any personal values and beliefs of the researcher. It should be aim of the researcher that they remain impartial while interpreting results of the research. So do not misinterpret results to verify their own personal beliefs. So research should be objective because it implies absence of bias, free from any personal error. Okay. Now going to the next, that is the validity. So the validity implies the conclusion drawn from the study are correct. So validity ensures the applicability of the research. So the conclusion drawn from research are applicable to the real life problems only if these are valid. Clear? So now going to the next one, that is a reliability. Okay. So reliable research will produce similar results each time. When procedures are tested on different sets of similar samples, suppose a study has been conducted on different samples regarding sports activity and health status, consider that the result from one sample concludes that the playing games improves the health of a person. If other samples also conform to the same conclusion, then it can be said the research procedure and the results are reliable. Greater the similarity in results, greater is the reliability. So good research should be reliable. Now going to the last characteristics of research, that is controlled. Okay. So in real life, any activity is affected by many factors. While conducting research, it will not be possible to consider all the factors together. We know there are many factors now. So, even if all factors are considered, then it will be difficult to know how much impact any particular factor has created. So, to study impact of any one factor, others have to be controlled, fixed. So this can be done easily in physical sciences as experiments are performed in the laboratories, but it is difficult in social science because it is not performed in the laboratories. It is performed in the open environment. Okay, so it is difficult. So experiments are performed in controlled manner in social science. So humans are studies now, so it is not possible to isolate them from the society to study their behaviors. We have already told these experiments, the social science experiments, are performed in open environment, open field. So that's why controlled manner is impossible. Clear? So I think characteristics of good research is clear to everyone. So research should be accurate, should be realistic, systematic, empirical, critical, valid, controlled, reliable, logical, and generalizability. Okay, so now move on to the next slide. So here this is the slide for positivism approach, and we have already told this approach is one of the most important approach of this chapter. Okay, so now going to the main focus uh, on the positivism approach. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, positivism implies a philosophical system recognizing only that which can be scientifically verified or which is capable of logical or mathematical proof. Okay, so therefore rejecting metaphysics and theism. So basically positivism approach always scientifically verified. Okay, and it is basically evidence based reality. 1 minute. Evidence so it is basically evidence based reality that can be mathematically interpreted. Okay, so uh, according to the positive approach to research, the conclusion should be based on verifiable facts and not purely on intuition. Okay, so positivistic approach is capable of logical or mathematical proof according to the Oxford Dictionary, and it can be mathematically interpreted. Basically positivism approach based on real cause. It is based on the deductive reasoning. Positivists believed that objectivity was a characteristic that resided in the individual scientist. So they are responsible for putting aside their biases and beliefs and seeing the world as it reality is. Clear? So now going to the next thing, conclusion always based on the verifiable facts and not purely on the intuition. The followers of positivism, the followers of positivism believe in the objective reality, not the subjective, as verified by the data. And research is basically similar to the quantitative research. Okay, positivism जो approach ये quantitative approach basically, so it is similar to the quantitative approach. Okay, so that's why it is conducted in a controlled and structured manner. Basically it is logically and scientifically verified, so that's why it is conducted in a controlled and structured manner. It is based on quantitative research. Clear? So the results should not be based on the value judgment of the researcher. Basically, Positivists believe in empiricism, and we have already told the empiricism in the characteristics of good research. For example, we can say a study into the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the equity of the fashion brands in North America. So this is the proper example of the positivism approach. Basically, it is conducted in the controlled and structured manner, and it is based on the quantitative approach, not the qualitative. Okay, so there are some shortcomings. So now going to the shortcomings of the positivism approach. Okay, so the first one, positivism approach relies on experiences as a, and you know na, according to the positivism approach, experiences is the valid source of knowledge, but time, space, these are not based on the experiences, so that's why it fails to acknowledge the effect. Okay, so now going to the second shortcomings. Basically, positivism approach assumes that all types of processes can be perceived as a certain variation of actions of individuals or relationship between individuals, but it also fails to acknowledge. Okay, so that's why that's why uh, post positivism approach has emerged from uh, the rejection of the central tenets of the positivism. Okay, so in post positivistic approach and the methodological pluralism, the researcher chooses the methodology as suitable to the research context. Okay, so the followers of the post positivism believe in the main thing, that is subjectivity of the reality. So in the positivism approach, followers believe in objectivity of the reality, but in the post positivism approach, followers believe in subjectivity of the reality, and that is the basic differences between the post positivism and the positivism approach. Clear? Post positivism approach considers the scientific reasoning also, and the common senses are same processes and differ only in a degree. So, post positivist approach can be classified into constructivist and the critical realist. Okay, so the main thing, the paradigm of the post positivism approach or research depends upon the ontology, epistemology, and methodology used in research. So first thing is the ontology. So what do you mean by a ontology? Ontology means basically reality is studied. Epistemology means knowledge of the reality, and methodology, lastly methodology used to seek the truth of the reality. So post positivism approach depends upon the ontology, epistemology, and lastly methodology, which is used in the research. Clear? So uh, post positivism approach basically rejects the idea that any individual can see the world perfectly as it really is. So they argue that the ideas or the particular identity of a researcher influences what they observe and therefore impacts upon what they conclude. So they design, so scientists are designing or on a continuum between the qualitative and the quantitative approach, quantitative research. Okay, so in the positivism approach or research, uh, it is based on the quantitative approach, but post positivism research is based on the mixed research, basically quantitative and the qualitative. So post positivistic approach or methodological pluralism chooses the methodology which is suitable to the research context. Okay, and it depends on the ontology, epistemology, and methodology. And most importantly, the followers of post positivism believe in subjectivity of the reality. That's it. So I think positivism approach and post positivism approach or research is clear to everyone. So if you have any doubt on it, please do comment in my comment section. Please feel free to ask in my comment section. Okay, I will reply you, I promise. Okay, so now move on to the next slide. So here we can see there are some different research method. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so today we are going to explain four research method. So first one most probably that is experimental, second one descriptive, third one is action research, and fourth one is a historical research. So here we can see experimental research. So basically experimental research indicates the relationship between two or more variables in controlled manner. Okay, so it ex- So here we can see experimental research and descriptive research. So at first we have to know the experimental research. So experimental research basically indicates the relationship between two or more variables in controlled manner. So it indicates the relationship between dependent and independent variable. Okay, so experimental research is one of the most important scientific research design. Experiments in the experimental research performed may include the manipulation of independent variable. Okay, and independent variables are manipulated in experiments and their effect on dependent variable is observed under control condition to interpret the proper relationship. So here it is important to have some knowledge of the extraneous variables and confounding variables. We will discuss it later. So conclusions are then generalized if the same result is drawn on performing the experiment again and again in the same setting. So it is difficult to conduct experiments in social sciences than sciences. The experiments in sciences can be performed in laboratories, but the social science researches revolve around the human behavior and which is very much difficult to study in controlled settings. Experimental research can be categorized as three experimental research. First one is pre-experimental research, second one is quasi-experimental research, and third one is true experimental research. So now move on to the next concept that is a sorry. So now move on to the next concept that is descriptive research. Okay. So at first we have to know what do you mean by a descriptive research. So descriptive research is basically conducted to describe the characteristics of a situation, phenomenon of a problem or okay, and the different types of research based on descriptive research methods are observational method, survey method, and most important thing that is case study method. So you all know that case study method helps to in-depth study of the problem. Survey method helps to collect the data, and the observational method helps to observe the situation and describing the situation from every corner. Okay, so I think descriptive research and experimental research is clear. So now move on to the next slide. So here we can see the historical research. So historical research is basically to conduct it to examine the past event. Okay, past events. Okay, so no experiment can be performed in such a type of study. However, an attempt can be made to recreate the same situation. Such studies are helpful to know about the historical background of the present day events. Steps in historical research include specifying the research problem, review of literature, analyzing, data collecting, etc. Same as with the all types of research. Here, primary data sources are persons who had witnessed or experienced the problem under the study. So, one thing, so what is the source of primary data? What is the source of primary data in historical research? Primary data sources are persons who had witnessed or experienced the same problem under the study. So, historical events helps to examine the past events. Okay. So here we can see the last types of research for this session. So that is action research. Okay. So action research is basically conducted to address an immediate problem in the classroom. So in 1940s, Kurt Lewin, a German American social psychologist, coined the term action research. It refers to the use of evaluative, investigative, and analytical research methods for developing remedial solutions for weaknesses and problems in organization and institutions. So it is conducted to address an immediate problem, and it can also be used for improvements in organization. It is less formal and or theory driven, as it is meant for specific situation. Clear? So action research basically helps to address the immediate problem in the classroom. Okay, so if the results are satisfying of research, so then the problem has been solved or the situation has improved. But if the problem is not yet solved, then the process will be repeated and alternative action will be recommended for testing. So action research is basically conducted to address an immediate problem of the uh, problem in the classroom or institutions or organizations. I think what do you mean by experimental research, descriptive research, historical research, and action research is all clear to everyone. So, experimental research is conducted to to indicate the relationship. Okay, so it basically it helps to indicate the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. Descriptive research helps to describe the whole situation. Uh, are now going to the historical research. So here we can see last types of research, that is action research. Okay, so action research basically in the 1940s, Kurt Lewin, Kurt Lewin, a German American social psychologist, coined the term action research, and it is conducted to address an immediate problem in the classroom. So, it refers to the use of evaluative, investigative, analytical research methods for developing remedial solutions for weaknesses and problems in organization and institutions, and it is conducted to address only an immediate problem in the organization or in the classroom or in the uh, institutions. Okay, so if the results are satisfying, then the problem has been solved or the situation has improved. But if the problem is not yet solved, then the process will be repeated and alternative action will be recommended for testing. So action research is conducted to address immediate problem. Historical research is conducted to examine past events only. Descriptive research is conducted to examine the past events, and experimental research is conducted to indicate or examine the relationship between dependent and independent variables. So I think this is clear. So now move on the uh, last slide. So learner, we are done for the today's session. I hope this session will be very useful to everyone. So if you like my session, do not forget to like, share, comment, and please do some support and subscribe my channel for getting more useful sessions. I will come again with a new session. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you. Happy learning.